Well, hello and welcome. If this is your first time with us, thank you for stopping by. You're listening to Choose to Endure, the show dedicated to the non-elite runners, where we share stories, interviews, gear, and training tips specific to the tail-end heroes of the ultra universe. If you haven't had a moment to do so yet, please consider heading over to your favorite podcast app, maybe even the one you're listening on right now. Hit follow, rate the show, and if you're on Apple, maybe even leave us a short review if you're so inclined to. My name is Richard Gleave. I've been running ultras since 2017. I've taken on and finished numerous distances at this point, all the way up through 220 miles, and I am unashamedly a member of the back of the pack, just like you guys. Now, today, I am chatting with a lady who probably needs no introduction if, like me, you spent a large part of the previous week and a half following one of my favorite races, the monster that is the Cocodona 250-mile race across Arizona. Now, she was the queen of the golden hour on screen, high-fiving almost everyone in Flagstaff. Today, we have the incredible Christy Krchnavy joining us. Christy is a back-of-the-pack runner, mother, wife, and assistant race director, when she has time, for the Ultra Expeditions crew up in the Dallas, Texas area. She has been running long distances since her son was born as a way to have time to herself and stay healthy, and loves hiking and being outside, which I think showed during the Cocodona run. She says that ultras allow her to take time to enjoy herself on the trail, take a few pictures, and still make it to the finish line before the cutoffs, which I think is an entirely noble goal. So sit back, take a listen to Christy's Cocodona story. We'll be right with you after this.
Discover raw, inspiring stories from runners who've been right where you are. This is the Choose to Endure Ultra Running Podcast. With your host,
he's English, not Australian,
Richard Gleave.
So, Christy, I am super pumped to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sparing a little time to talk to us today. It's been just over a week and a half, I think, since we watched you cross the finish line. How are you feeling at this point? Have you even started recovery yet? Can you move?
Yes. Well, thanks for having me. I'm actually feeling pretty good. Even from day one of being done, my muscles all felt fine. I wasn't sore. The only thing that was bothering me are my feet.
Oh.
From about mile 120, I battled really severe blisters. And just every time I came in, just kind of had to get them dealt with and move on. And yeah, so that's really the only thing that's still bothering me is my feet.
Well, that's pretty impressive, I think, after 250 miles on the trails and in the sun to, I'm going to say only have blisters. Blisters are a pain, metaphorically and physically, but I think that's pretty good. Well done. So we heard a little about you in the intro there, but maybe we start with your journey into ultra running. How did you originally get into the sport? And what are some experience or races that have shaped your running career prior to getting up to Cocodona here?
Yeah, so I started running when my son was just a few months old. I've run prior to that, but I never ran distance. So when he was born and I needed some time to myself, because you have a little human attached to you at all times, I would get my baby, nurse my baby, and then go run for
Brilliant.
10 miles and then come back. I spent a lot of time, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. running, and I still do most of my running at the wee hours of the morning because that's what works well for my family.
Kudos to you. I love that. Family first is always the way to go in my book. Had you done any races before Cocodona?
Yeah, so I ran with Ultra Expeditions. I ran Piney Woods as my first 50K, which is always really near and dear to my heart. It's a beautiful trail up in Tyler, Texas. And then I also ran Caprock Canyon 100K with them. And after those two, I was just hooked. I was like, this distance thing, like, this is the way to go because I'm not a fast runner, but I joke I'm really hard to kill. So I just keep going and I'm not going to beat anyone, but I'm going to definitely keep moving until I finish. That's kind of how I got hooked on distance. I was like, I can go slow and still outlast everyone. Okay, I can do this.
Yeah, and that's why I love these really long distances too, because you get so much time that you don't have to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's really beneficial for the likes of you and I who like to go slow, shall we say. So with those races in the bank, what inspired you, what motivated you to go look at Cocodona 250? Because that's a big jump right there. Was there something specific about that race that kind of drew you into it?
Yeah, so I did 100 miler. Well, I did 100 miler that I DNF'd, and I had a lot of foot problems, and I realized I missed the cutoff, and I realized I never wanted to feel that way again. So I was like, I'm going to put everything into this. I did Dino Valley 100 miler again.
Oh, yeah.
And I finished and felt great. So then during that race, I told my crew to never let me do another 100-mile race because this was the worst decision of my life. And then a week later, I was like, I think I'm going to sign up for Cocodona.
Wow.
And they're like, well, you told us never to let you do another 100. I'm like, well, this is not 100. This is 250.
I like your reasoning there. Very good.
There's a loophole.
So you were familiar with Cocodona prior to that? I mean, had you watched any of the previous races, or you just came across it online and was like, wow, that's a race I want to try?
I lived in Arizona for 6 years. I was a teacher there. And so I was really familiar with all the trails in that area and knew how beautiful it was. And so last year I watched it a lot. I got nothing done that week, as I'm sure a lot of people can understand.
Yeah.
And then when I told my husband I wanted to do it, he's like, all right, let's do it. Like I'm very lucky with a very supportive husband.
Very supportive, yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like he was just like, go for it. He didn't have any hesitation that.
Nope. He has this ability to believe in me that is really cool. He's like, if you're going to do it, do it.
Brilliant. So now you are in the Dallas area.
I am.
How did you build a training plan for all of the terrain in Arizona, living in where we live? You know, there's not much of that around the Texas area in general.
So from DNFing 1 year, I knew training is king, right? You have to train for these things. So I did a lot of internet research and ended up stumbling upon a 200-mile training plan that I followed pretty closely. And it really emphasized time on feet, hiking with a weighted pack, and just, getting those long hours on the trail. I am very lucky. I'm in Flower Mound, and I live 15 minutes from North Shore Trail, which is actually a biking trail, but it also runners go there as well. So I would be on North Shore Trail at 3 a.m. most days of the week training. And I'd say I trained 6 days a week. I took Friday off. My husband liked to joke that I would do a marathon before church on Sunday and then spend the rest of the day with family. So it was a lot of sleep deprivation practice.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that's the way to do it, right? Get your sleep training going while you're doing your physical training. That's insane, but good for you. So, did you have any challenges with your training block? I mean, how long did it take you? What kind of length of training block did you have?
I trained for 48 weeks.
Whoa.
Yes. So I was serious about it. I was not going to fail. I knew if I was going to sign up, it was something I was going to commit to. I don't have the natural talent of a runner. I just am very stubborn and once I set my mind to something, I do it. So I set myself up a 48 training week block. And there was weeks I was near the end, I was averaging about 80 miles a week with about 14 to 15,000 feet in vert.
Wow. Because
the trail by me has a really technical section, and I would just do that in loops. It's a 10-mile technical section.
That's pretty handy, too.
It is. And then anytime we were anywhere for ultra expeditions, like we're in Caprock Canyon, I would train there. I would mark the course, and then when everyone else was heading to bed, I was like, all right, I got a 20-mile run to do.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was a lot of mental training as well.
Folks, I've been on that course as well. That is a challenging course. That is a course that I think if you're going to do training anywhere in Texas for Cocodona, that's probably as good as you're going to get from a specificity standpoint, especially that technical climb, that straight up, 700-foot straight up scramble, basically.
Yes. I love that.
Around that loop. Yeah, that's wild. I love it. Was there any other sort of specific stuff, definitely for you coming from Arizona and knowing that area and some of those trails? Did you go back up there or?
Yeah. So I knew the climbs would be my strength, but I also wanted to practice them because I'm a flatlander in Texas. So I went to Guadalupe Peak in Texas.
Oh, nice.
And one of my crew, who's my crew chief, Nicole, she was amazing. And she came with me. And she literally waited around for 2 days straight in the car, crewing me while I went up and down Guadalupe Peak 4 times in one day. And then the peak next door, Hunter Peak, I went up and down there the second day. Yeah,
so you really went out and did some, like what I would call proper, as much as proper as we can here.
Yeah.
And obviously you finished, so I would say it was successful.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. So let's talk about the race itself. Well, let's do logistics first, because like running a big race like that, you've already mentioned the crew and the logistics of running a race like Cocodona 250. How did they help you in the pre-race, in the build-up, and then throughout the race itself? Because crews are often missed, I think, in the big journey, and they play such a huge role in a lot of people's ability to finish.
Yes. Absolutely.
Tell us about your crew. Give your crew a shout out.
Oh my gosh. I can't shout out my crew enough. They were the reason I finished. I keep telling them I had the easy job. They had to do the stressful job of waiting for me and panicking because the tracker would always say I was going to be behind the cutoff. And then I would gain an hour somehow. And they're like, Christy, you're stressing us out. But no, my crew was amazing. I had my husband, who was just the biggest support. My sister-in-law, Nicole, my crew chief, Rebecca from Ultra Expeditions. And then I had 3 pacers in addition, Misty, Rhonda, and Patty. And, oh man, they were the best. I knew if I could just get to my crew every time that they would solve the problems. And I believed that every time, no matter how bad I was feeling. If I just get to my crew, they'll solve everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that was kind of how I got through, just knowing they were close every time.
Now, did they move along the race with you, or did they have a central spot and just kind of bounce back and forth to wherever you were?
We rented an Airbnb in Clarkdale. So they it was in the center of the course. So they did a little bit of both. They kind of traveled with me, and then we had a big SUV that we rented. So Nicole had her car. She was my supplies. And then Jacqueline, my sister-in-law, she was shuttling pacers. That woman miles and miles of shuttling pacers back and forth. She's a saint.
Yeah.
And so yeah, everyone fit in exactly where they should have been. And it was seamless. They were the reason I finished, honestly.
I'm fascinated by how people select crews. And so some folks go with their friends, they go with people they know well. Other folks like to have specific roles, dedicated sort of roles within the crew, whether they're friends or not. I want somebody who's trained in foot care, and I want somebody who's whatever. How did you go about selecting your crew folks?
With 250 miles, it's kind of a little more challenging because it's a hard sell to say, hey, do you want to take a week off and follow me around the desert and touch my gross feet? Who's signing up?
Yeah.
Not really. You don't have a huge line for that role. I don't know why. But Nicole she just jumped in. I asked her if she would come be crew and kind of lead the charge. And she said yes. And then everyone else followed and fell into place. My husband was always going because he's stuck married to an ultra runner. So he's kind of stuck with it. And then my sister-in-law, who's not a runner, she didn't want to miss out. She's like, I'm joining this fun. I'm like, I don't know about how much fun it's going to be, but let's do it. One of my pacers, Misty, she lives in Arizona. And so she was able to she paced me at the end. She was the one in the yellow Choose Strong hat. And then my other two pacers I had never met before.
Oh, do tell. That sounds interesting.
So one of my sweet friends had to drop as a pacer because she had a conflict that was completely not her fault. Like, she felt terrible. And I was like, it's okay. It'll work out. So Misty put the word out to trail runners that she knew. And Rhonda and Patty, my other two pacers, they wanted to join. So I had never met them before, and they ran with me. Patty joined me for some really rough sections of nighttime. She climbed with me up Mingus. She took me through Schnebley, she was pulling sleepwalking runners out of the trees. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, she would like, okay, Christy, keep going forward, because I was sleepwalking. And then she would like pull a runner out of the trees and be like, this way, honey. And she just like 5 to 10 sleepwalker runners just on that section. It was like an 8-mile section.
Oh my goodness.
It was carnage out there. It was crazy.
But what a cool thing to do, to step in and help pace somebody you've never met. I think that speaks really well of those two individuals, I have to say. So how did you, because I imagine at the point that they jump in, you're not like super chatty, I wouldn't have thought. How did you get to know these people, or did you?
You know, I'm pretty chatty. I pretty much talked to everyone the pacing with me, except at the end, because I lost my voice because there was a prescribed burn in Sedona. And so I lost my voice at the end, and Misty, my last pacer, I finally said, I can't talk anymore. My voice is shot. And I was like, I need to put my headphones in. And that was the first time I put my headphones in the entire race, is like the last 50 miles.
Ah.
Yeah. So up to that, I was just chatting with everyone.
Yeah. It seemed like there were a lot of people having kind of breathing challenges, whether it was from the burn or just from the dust coming in. Even Browning up front, he suffered from that. And when he got past at the end, I think he was having breathing challenges as well.
Yeah. It got really bad in Walnut Canyon. I have a video of it. Like, there's just smoke in the air. Ooh. Like, it's all hazy, and we're running. And I'm like, this is great. Like, we're fine. Yeah.
You just have the picture of the guy with the harp and everything burning behind him. And he's like, no, we're cool. Yes. It's all, just follow the trail.
We're cool. We're good.
Follow the flags. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So we've started on the race. Let's talk about the race, your race specifically. Did you have a strategy from the get-go for Cocodona 250, and how did your race pan out? Walk us through your race, and did your strategy evolve as you went through the various aid stations? And I'm always curious how people find that first, I don't know, 30 odd miles through
37.
Through Crown King there, which everybody says is a beast. Is it that bad? Can you confirm that was a challenge?
You know, I hesitate to say this because I don't want to give people the wrong idea, but I didn't think it was that bad. But here's why. I brought an umbrella with me. I don't know if on the live stream you saw the person they were dubbing Umbrella. At first I was Umbrella Guy. They didn't realize I was a girl. And then I became Umbrella Girl.
Yes.
And then I became Mary Poppins of Cocodona.
Yes. So not only did you have this awesome finish, but you were also a celebrity earlier on in the Cocodona experience. And I don't know, did you even know that at the time?
Oh, I had no idea.
No.
I couldn't see much around my umbrella. All I could see was forward. So I had it bungeed to my pack because I knew on the first day the priority would be water, staying cool, and just managing my pace. I'm a strong climber, so I wanted to get out of that day feeling good and not destroyed for the rest of the race. So once I put my umbrella up, I just kind of cruised. I could run with it. I only had to close it once for wind, and I really stayed very cool. I never felt hot. I was always out of breath, but it's very steep. It's a very steep terrain, and it's very rocky, but it's beautiful. I was just trying to soak in all the beauty and just appreciate that I was there and that I had done all the work. And these are the victory miles. You know, this is not the work. This is the reward for all the work.
I mean, that's a pretty long victory lap, a 250-mile victory lap.
It
But it
was.
is one. I mean, I'm with you on that. After your 48 weeks of mental and physical training, I would imagine this seems like, yeah, it's just a couple of days and I'll be at the end. So
Yeah.
So back to the umbrella for a minute, because I am fascinated by this. How did you even theorize that you could climb with an umbrella attached to your pack? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that, but it's brilliant.
So my sister-in-law, my other sister-in-law who's married to my actual brother. She is a thru hiker, and they use umbrellas in really hot sections of the PCT, like through California. And so when we were brainstorming the beginning of the race and kind of problem solving what the issues would be, when heat came up, I was like, well, why don't we just bring an umbrella? And it just seemed like a very simple solution. So I scoured the race guide and made sure it wasn't outlawed, because, sometimes there's rules about things like that. And there wasn't. And so I just I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to assume it's okay. And so I just kind of took my cue from thru hikers.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool hack. Pun intended. It did keep you cool. Did you have it on that whole climb all the way, aside from the one time you took it down for a wind?
Yeah. I opened it up at mile 7 at the aid station at Cottonwood Creek. And then I had it open until, I want to say maybe 5 miles before Lane Mountain, because it got a little brushy and I was catching it on everything. And so I had to close it. But then I just bungeed it to my hiking pole, because it was a really lightweight umbrella. And most of the people they were very receptive to me having it. It was funny because they're like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? One guy said I should have brought 2 and sold one at mile 20 for $500. I was like, I probably would have just given it away. But yeah, so.
That's awesome.
It worked out great.
Well, kudos to you for coming up with that and for executing it during the race. And I don't know, again, if you go back and look at some of that live stream, if you haven't already, there's some fascinating live stream when they pick up you with the drone, with the umbrella. Just a wonderful chat about the umbrella and how cool of a hack it is. We may end up seeing a whole lot more umbrellas next year. And if we do, then you are the original umbrella
I started
lady.
a trend.
Yes, absolutely.
My husband has a picture of me on the treadmill with the umbrella, and he's like, I think she's lost it.
But again, you practice with it, right? You got to practice with the thing.
I did.
And so how did you have it, again, and we'll carry on in a moment, but you said you had it bungeed to your pack. For anyone that wants to try this for themselves, how did you attach the umbrella to your pack?
I bought these little pack bungees at REI, and I just had 3 different places that it was bungeed, so it was nice and secure, and it just went all the way up my shoulder, and then it just kind of hovered over my head. So if I was running, I kind of had to hold it a little bit, but walking, I didn't touch it.
Excellent.
And really, you're not running that much on that section.
Well, no.
There's not a lot of running involved.
No. All right, so we've got you through, I think, Crown King, and then how did it go for you from there?
The first night was rough. I ran with a guy, Carell, who for 16 miles, and he really got me through that section. I had a pretty good tumble. I hit my knee really hard. I had so much rocks and just dirt in it. I was like, we're just not going to mess with it. It was dripping down. I'm like, we're just going to leave that. Just pretend like it didn't happen. So that was hard. The first night was just after being out all day in the sun. And even though I wasn't very hot, it's a lot for your body.
Yeah.
I ran out of water going up to Crown King. I had about 1 liter left with 3 miles to go, and I ran into someone sitting on a rock who asked me if I had water, and I couldn't say no. So I gave her some, and so I conserved about 0.5 liter for 3 miles and up to Lane Mountain. So between being a little bit dehydrated and then continuing on through the night, it was a rough night. But once the sun came up, it was good. So I took a 15-minute nap at Wambatochik, and then I was good to go.
Okay. Well, we'll get into sleep here in just a bit, and whether you had a strategy for that. But yeah, so keep us moving with you.
Okay. Let's see. So every single day, my goal was to get 50 miles, because I knew if I could get 50 miles, then I would make it. And in the back of my mind was always the cutoff. I knew I was going to be pushing it near the end. So I had a little piece of paper with every single aid station and all the cutoffs in my pack. And I would just pull it out and look what the next cutoff was and know I had to make it by then. And so I went through the night. There was a girl out of Monumental that was going to drop. She was sitting on a rock, and I was like, well, you can't drop at this rock. So come on, let's go. I felt like I was like collecting runners. It was really fun, actually.
Yeah.
And so I got her to the aid station, and she ended up dropping, but I tried to convince her to keep going, but she wasn't having it. And then pretty uneventful until I got to Whiskey, I want to say Basin, but it's not.
Whiskey Row?
Whiskey Row.
Yeah.
Yep. And I got my first pacer, my sweet Rebecca and Nicole are both nurses, or Nicole was a nurse, but they were my nurses on crew. So I kind of trusted them to make sure I didn't do anything too stupid and that I didn't hurt myself too bad. So
yeah,
that definitely eased my mind, knowing that if something happened, I did have two nurses keeping an eye on me. But yeah, so I mean, it was beautiful miles. I really enjoyed having pacers with me. We talked and shared life stories and just tried to take it all in, just really appreciate the fact that we get to do this and I could be anywhere and I get to be on a trail, for days on end.
Yeah. You're cruising along at this point. You didn't have any challenges other than the occasional trip and knee?
Yeah, I had that one fall. Like I said, I had blisters starting at mile probably 110, and they just kept, taking my socks off, wiping down my feet, managing any blisters and putting them back on. My pacers would kind of text Nicole with any issues I was having, any food I needed. And she would kind of have things ready or have it in her mind how she was going to break it to me that I didn't get that thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had a lot of trouble starting at the Dells with fueling. I've never had problems eating. I love food. I eat all the time. I couldn't swallow food. Like I could chew it and I wasn't nauseous, but I couldn't swallow it. So I think I fueled about 150 miles on Mentos and First Form Ignition, like carbohydrate drink.
Whoa. Well done, you. Yeah, I wonder.
Not ideal.
No, probably not in your pre-race plan. I wouldn't have thought. It wasn't. But well done anyway. Do you think that was from the smoke or the dust in the air that was kind of jacking with your throat?
I have no idea. It's something I've never encountered before. I always wolf down food when I'm running. I'm always hungry. Starting at the Dells, I started just dry heaving randomly. And I was like, this has never happened before. I don't know what's happening. And I would just take a few steps and dry heave and take a few steps. And Rebecca, who's with me, who's the nurse, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, just keep going. I'm like, just keep going. And so then they would get out their phone and text Nicole. I'm like, no one likes a snitch. Stop telling on me.
Fantastic. Yeah. And just on the food topic, they have such good aid stations out there and they seem to get better and better every year. So it's such a shame you were not able to take advantage of any of those. But just from an aid station general perspective, did you have a favorite aid station that you went through, which was, when you look back, you think, yeah, that was really cool?
Oh, probably Whiskey Row, because I ate 2 pieces of pizza there. That was the first thing I'd eaten in 50 miles, and it was glorious. And my crew got so excited that I was eating the pizza, and then so she tried to give me another piece, and then I was like, nope, that's not happening anymore. So it was like a novel food worked and then it stopped. And then they'd have to figure out something else that worked. I ate Chick-fil-A nuggets one time and then they tried to give me another nugget. I was like, I can't touch those. I can't even smell them.
Oh man.
So it was a lot of problem solving on the go.
Yeah. You're out there so long in such wild temperature swings. Your body's probably doing all sorts of stuff just to try to stay at par, so to speak. So yeah. You talked a little bit about your 15-minute sleep. Did you have a predefined sleep strategy, or were you, because I know it can go both ways. I've talked to people that are like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm going to do exactly this amount of sleep at exactly these places. Or were you kind of on the I'm just going to sleep as and when I feel like I need and can actually sleep bandwagon? Which way did you go on
Yeah.
that?
So I'm an over planner. If you had seen my bins of gear, like everything is labeled. There's like everything that's in the bin. I had like spreadsheets and timesheets and like so yes, I planned my sleep to the like minute.
Yeah.
Now, did that go as planned? Absolutely not. So my plan was to sleep 3 hours at Mingus and 3 hours at Munn's, and that's it. Because I'm a back of the packer and I know I am going to be cutting it close, I didn't think I had time for more than that. But when I went into Whiskey Row, I talked to some of the runners that were passing me, like I was standing still and I was like going as fast as I could. And they're just like zooming past me. And I caught up with one of the runners that I had run with and he was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I can't go any faster." And he's like, "Well, how much have you slept?" I'm like, 15 minutes. And he's like, "You need to sleep. Like this is now day 2. You need to sleep." And I was like, "Well, I don't have time to sleep." He's like, "You'll go faster if you sleep." So I took a 1-hour nap at Whiskey Row and I felt like a new human being. Like it was crazy. I was running again. I felt fresh. It was very, very strange. So I slept a total of 3 1-hour naps and then I took a lot of dirt naps.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So about 4 hours total. I don't know exactly because at mile about 140, my watch decided that running was no longer for it and decided to crash.
Oh, no. And were you dependent
Yes.
on your watch, or did you have a navigation, or was it easy to go? Like, did you need your watch, or was it?
I had navigation on my phone, but as a runner, your watch is kind of a part of you.
Yeah.
And you rely on it a lot just for feedback of pace and time of the day. Like I didn't know what day it was. So yeah, it completely crashed. It was like a triangle of death. And my crew tried to reset it. It wasn't short on battery. It was full on battery. It just would not, like, it wouldn't go. So I ran over 100 miles without a watch and just had to mentally be like, okay, this is the next problem. And we're just going to deal with it.
So that's really interesting because there is definitely a field of thought out there that says, all the data that we've got and all the watch stuff that we look at is kind of counterproductive. So, and I'm not saying I support these arguments, but they're out there that say, hey, you should at some point in your career go run without a watch and just kind of run through the day, let the day go up and down and figure things out and free yourself of all the data. And kind of run naked is what they call it, without any of that. So how did you find running without your watch? Was it tough to start with? Did it in the end, how did you feel about no watch?
It was very difficult in the beginning. I had a little bit of a pity party for myself. I was with my pacer Rhonda when it died and we tried to reset it. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, it's my watch. Like, it's the one piece of gear I didn't think was going to fail. And then I was just walking, kind of being kind of grumpy, which for me is not very grumpy, but I was feeling grumpy. And then I was like, you know what? This is where we're at. Like, this is what we're going to deal with. And the next problem will come up and I'll have to deal with that. And that's like, we just have to keep rolling. Yeah. So there's really not a lot of time when you're kind of chasing those cutoffs to dwell on a problem. You just have to find a solution and move.
Now, talking of the cutoffs, were you always aware that you were really close? Were you always really close to the cutoffs? Or did you ever kind of get yourself, some time built in there?
Yeah, I was kind of hanging out mid to back in the beginning, first 2.5 days. And then my blisters became a very large problem. And we were spending a long time managing the blisters and managing the feet pain. And it kind of just kept getting me push back. So I was always aware of the cutoff. We knew that Mingus was going to be a tight cutoff. I came in 20 minutes ahead of that cutoff. My crew did a NASCAR style switcheroo and even let me lay down for 5 minutes. And I said, I just need 5 minutes. And they're like, okay, that's all you get. I'm like, all right, that's fine. 5 minutes. But it was weird. If I slept for 5 minutes, I would dream. Like I would go through a full dream cycle. I would wake up and I'd be good to go for another 10 miles. I took a 2-minute nap once and it was glorious.
I know. It's weird how that happens, isn't it? It's like everything
It's
resets
bizarre.
and you buy yourself hours from a 5-minute nap.
Yes.
Very, very
Yes.
strange. So you were at one point at least only 20 minutes from cutoff.
Yes. Yeah.
A little bit
I was
panicky time
stressing
right
my
there.
crew out.
Yeah. A little panicky at that. I
Because
would be.
Yeah, the tracker would show the time according to like what your current pace was. So if I was climbing up Kasner and I was going an hour per mile, it was showing that I was like 2 hours behind the cutoff. And then they were freaking out and texting my pacer and being like, she's got to move. And they're like, she's climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
And so, but then when I'd start going down again or I'd start going flat, I would start running and then I would, make up an hour. And so my poor Nicole, she was like, I give up. Like she stopped trying to figure it out. She was like, just make it before the cutoff. I can't, this is your cutoff. Make it before then. I don't know what to tell you.
I like it. So you talked about Kasner there, and I don't know, maybe this will come up in the next question, but I wanted to get a feel for sections of the race that you liked the best and then some that maybe were not your favorite sections of that race. Where were you on that?
Favorite. Coming through Sedona to like the Oak Creek crossing, the water crossing was just beautiful. I had known that section before I've run it. It's like Soldiers Pass area in Sedona. And it's just miles of red rock and it's beautiful. And I ran really well in that section. I was actually moving. My feet were just numb by that point. So that was a good section. And then also just like sharing the dells in Prescott with my pacer, Rebecca. She had never been over there. And so it was just, she was like, oh my gosh, like this is gorgeous. And we really had a nice time just enjoying the beauty of that area.
That was, I think, where Joe McConaughey got lost. Did you have a problem following?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he got lost. He got turned around in the dells and lost his lead at that point. And Jeff Browning bumped into him as he was coming the wrong way on a trail. And so, but yeah, one or two folks have said the dells can be kind of tricky to figure your way through, especially at night. Yeah.
Yes. I was there during the day.
Okay.
And I had done that section before, which helped. I had done a lot of the sections in hiking Arizona. And so there was a lot of times I just felt kind of at home and like I knew what I was doing, which really I think helped me.
Awesome. Brilliant. Okay. And then I cut you off, but your
the worst.
least favorite section of Cocodona.
So climbing up to Camp Kippa was really hard and really long. I was in this section where no one was around me. I was kind of in a weird like pocket of no people for hours. And at one point I just laid down on the trail and turned off my headlamp and stared at the stars. And I set my timer for 6 minutes. And I was like, I'm going to take 6 minutes to look at the stars and just not be in the race. And that really helped.
Yeah.
So that was a hard climb though, especially after Crown King, and just it's your first night alone. It feels really far by that point. You just started. So that was hard. And then probably the worst actually was Kelly Canyon. It's just a straight flat road and there's construction vehicles. And I had been on the trail for 4 days by that point in the quiet. And the construction vehicles were so loud. And I was like, this is just, it's not supposed to be here. And that was hard. I took a lot of dirt naps on that section. I just laid in the middle of the road.
Oh, man.
My pacer was like, don't get hit by a car.
Yeah, that does seem a very sort of juxtaposed position, right? When you're out in the solitude and quiet of the mountains and all those trails and then suddenly jump on road with the construction. Did you have any close calls? Was there traffic coming?
No, it wasn't. It was a dirt road. It wasn't really traffic. There was one construction vehicle that went by us, and I was not sleeping on the trail at the time. So it was, we were safe. She wouldn't have let me get hit by a car, I promise. Well, she's a good pacer.
Thankfully, yes. That probably job one for your pacer. Don't let your person get hit by moving vehicles.
She was trying to encourage me to go off the side. I was like, no, this looks nice. And it just laid down in the middle of the ground.
So you had gone quite well then, meeting and getting ahead of all the cutoffs.
Mm-hmm.
When we picked you up on the cams later on, it was probably just as you were going up Mount Eldon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or thereabouts. So tell us how that went, because that seems really intimidating. After all that time, you've been out there, all the temperatures, everything else you got going on, and suddenly you have to go up this, I don't know, is it 1,500 feet in a mile, or I don't know. It's a huge looking climb.
Yes, it was rough. So so how that went down, it was a little bit of the perfect storm of things that happened. Because I was so close to cut off at Mingus, I didn't get to sleep at all. We were kind of counting on an hour there, and it just didn't happen. And so I was very, very sleep deprived by that point. And coming through the Flagstaff area, it was anytime there was rocks, it didn't matter if it was flat. I couldn't run. My feet were just so blistered. I had just everywhere there were blisters. And so that whole Flagstaff getting up to Eldon is very rocky. And it's like a wash you go through and it was the middle of the night. There was like washing machines and trash. And it was a weird section of the course that we were in. And so then you're doing that little hookup and around Flagstaff. So when I climbed Eldon, Misty and I had a plan. We were going to get to the base of Eldon. We were going to take a 5-minute dirt nap, have some caffeine, eat some calories, and then climb. But I was so sleep deprived that when we woke up and when we were climbing, I had this weird feeling like that I was lost. And I kept telling her, I think this isn't the way. I think we're on the wrong trail. I don't think this is the way to go. And she's like, no, keep going up. It's okay. Like, you're good. Follow the switchbacks. And I was like, no, there are no switchbacks. I don't think this is it. And so that was all the way up Eldon. Like, I just kept telling her, like, I think we're lost. I think this isn't it. And she's like, no, Christy, keep going up.
Get up there.
Yes. So then it felt like we had been climbing for literally 12 hours. So when I saw Jamil at the top, first of all, I thought he might have been a hallucination. I didn't hallucinate at all. But I was like, I don't think there's no way it's him, because obviously I'm lost and this is not Eldon. But I saw the towers, and Misty and I, like a year ago, had gone up Eldon to kind of get a feel for it. And so, but it was in the daytime. And so at night, it just feels so different. So when we climbed up and we saw Jamil, I thought it was 8 o'clock. Not 7 o'clock. Now remember, my watch is not working. So every time I have to check the time, I have to pull out my phone, but I've got my poles. Yeah. And so it's like too much work. So I thought it was 8 o'clock because we had been literally climbing for 5 years. That was what was happening. Yeah. And so when I saw Jamil and he was like, how was your night? And I said, Prof. The next question I asked him was, how far till finish? And he said 9.6 miles. So in my sleep-deprived brain, doing math, I thought, I have 2 hours to go 9.6 miles. And that I can't do that on a good day, much less like on a 240-mile day, 5 days. So, but something in my brain just snapped. And I was like, I don't care if I have to run 6-minute miles. I am getting to this finish line before the cutoff. Like, I'm not going through all of that pain and all of that sleep deprivation and not getting a buckle. I am getting a buckle. So I didn't realize he was filming me at the time. Yes. I was just freaking out internally. And I went like a crazy person sprinting down Eldon.
Yes, you did. And there's evidence of it. I mean, folks, if you haven't seen this clip, I guess, out on Cocodona site, you can go look. You can go look it up. I think it's like Final Finisher Summits Eldon, or I think that's maybe what it's called. But yeah, it's Jamil watching Christy come over the crest of Eldon, and then suddenly, I mean, you just absolutely floor it and take off. And I think you said at some point, "Oh no, my pacer is somewhere back there."
Yeah, I didn't want him to think there was. Again, I'm a little sleep deprived by this point, so I thought somewhere in my brain, I thought that she was going to get lost because I was trying to take care of my pacer, which is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I'm in no place to take care of anyone by this point.
And you didn't just take off. I mean, you did just take off, but then it picks you up coming by the aid station. Most of us would check in the aid station, get a little something and go, but not you, Christy. You were on a mission, as you said. You just bombed straight by it. And the people commenting on the live stream were like, I guess she's not coming in the aid station. Like, she's going, she's really booking it down the hill. And you were. I mean,
because I thought it was an hour later.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was fantastic TV. So well done for that.
Well, I'm glad. I had no idea anyone was filming it. There was no way I was going to not get a buckle. I was like, I don't care what I need to do. I'm going to get a buckle. Like, I'm going to sprint down this mountain if I need to. And my pacer finally caught up with me. I cannot drop my pacer on a good day. She is a phenomenal runner. And so some of the people were like, oh, you dropped your pacer. I'm like, oh, no. I surprised my pacer.
She's coming. Just hang on a minute.
She caught me real easy. But she was like, what happened? I'm like, I have 9.6 miles and I only had 2 hours. She's like, Christy, it's 7:00. You have 3 hours. I'm like, oh, okay. I can take a deep breath then.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was just like, let's just finish.
So at what point did you were herring down that mountain?
Mm-hmm.
Proper flying.
About 3 miles from the top. I got about 3 miles down when she caught me.
Yeah.
Because she went like up and around. She thought I was in the aid station. She couldn't find me. And then she finally found me. And I kind of explained what happened. And she's like, okay, well, you're good. Like, you can take a walk break. I'm like, no, let's just go.
Yeah. So you must have caught the two chaps in front of you somewhere in the forest coming out off the bottom of the mountain. I think there's a little climb before you get into like the parks around Flagstaff. So were you aware that you were the final finisher before that? Were you coming over the top? You didn't know? I
didn't know I was last. I mean, I knew I was near the back because time-wise, and again, I thought it was 8:00.
Yeah.
So I figured I was near the back. I didn't know I was absolute last. The sweepers were behind me the whole time, but they were super nice. And they're like, no, you've got time. Like, don't worry. Don't let us stress you out. So I was just chatting with them. I was like, hey, how's it going? What you doing? Like, how you doing? I was a little sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And so when I came up and over and then realized by that point I was like, I'm done. Let's just run it in. And then when I was passing people, I wasn't intentionally. I was just like, I want to be done. Like, I want to see my crew. I want to get to the finish line. I don't want to be on this mountain anymore.
Yeah.
And so kind of endorphins took over and I was like, let's roll. Like,
so let's talk about that for a minute, because you got a cam all to yourself coming in. So we were all able to watch you running through Flagstaff. And, I have to ask here, what is your secret? Because 248 miles into a race, you're running really, really well. And I watched lots of people come in and they were not anywhere near what you were doing. So I need to know what your secret is. And I'm sure other listeners do too. Like, how are you doing that?
Well, part of it is just I'm extremely stubborn, and I have a way to, like, you just have to turn off the pain in your brain. You're just like, you know what? It's going to be there, and I can either focus on it or just ignore it. And there was nothing I could do to make it hurt less. So me focusing on, like, oh my gosh, my feet hurt. Oh my gosh, my blisters hurt. I am tired. Like, that's not going to make it any better. Like, I kept asking myself throughout the whole race, like, what story do I want to tell? Do I want to tell a story of 250 miles to myself of like, oh, poor me, poor me? Or do I want to, like, conquer this and be like, I'm going to do it with a smile and with a good attitude? So there was a lot of people who gave of their time and energy to help me. And I didn't want to be miserable, hang out with for 5 days. So it was kind of an intentional thing to, like, have a positive attitude. And I think because of that, when I was near the finish, it just I was just running because I was happy to be done and to be near the finish. It was great seeing everyone on the street. I actually leaned over to my pacer because I ran out of water because I did not stop at the aid station because I panicked. And so I was out of water that entire Flagstaff staff section. And so I leaned over to Misty and I was like, I am so thirsty. And she's like, I know, me too. And then at one point she's significantly taller than me. And so she's got very long legs, and I am not gifted in the height area. So at one point she was walking and I was running. And I was like, I'm going to need you to pretend like you're running because you're making me look slow. She's like, oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. And so she's like trotting in place to try to pretend like she's running, because I'm like, I'm going to need you to make me feel better and pretend to run.
Well, I mean, you looked distinctly positive and happy running those last miles compared to, well, pretty much everybody else who I watched running in. I'm sure others would agree. I mean, you were smiling, you were happy. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever seen anyone high five as many people on the latter part of a course in my life. And obviously you've got a camera running with you at this point as well. Mm-hmm. Were you aware of the camera at all? Was that even in your head? And how were you high-fiving all these people? Were they coming at you? Were you going and finding them? Like, just fun to watch.
I knew he was there. He was a really nice cameraman. I shout out to him. I'm sure he did so many miles back and forth, and he was so nice. But I knew he was there, but I was just, again, trying to stay in the moment and soak in the fact that I was done. Like, I had done the work. I had conquered all the problems. And like, this is the victory. Like, this is the good, exciting part. And I wasn't going to be mopey going in when I did this amazing feat. As far as the high-fiving, I think scientifically that high fives give you extra power. So maybe that's my secret, because I high-five people. Because when I work races with ultra expeditions, like, I'm always high-fiving people because it makes you feel better. And even if you're having a crummy day, like, you're like, that little contact, it boosts you up. So I always make it a point to high five anyone I can.
Well, you definitely high-fived the most people at the end of Cocodona that I've ever seen. And I've watched it all the years within the closing mile and a half. So I think well done to you. Amazing with your positive attitude. I love it. I think you ran that whole section. I don't think I saw you stop and walk at all, which most people, walking it in at that point. But So yeah, kudos to you. I thought that was a really cool finish. And obviously you then make the left on Birch and you go along to the alley, and everybody, including the commentators, are, hey, this is great. And I don't know if you know, but the lady who finished last, you high-fived her just before the alley turn.
Yeah, I had talked to her a bit. She was so sweet.
Yeah, she was a nice lady. And then you made the turn into the alley, and we were not expecting what happened then. I don't know.
Me either.
And folks, if you go to, I think it's late on in the video of the final day. It's probably 2 hours, 50 minutes, something like that. But go find Christy's finish, because she turns into Cocodona Alley and absolutely takes off. Like, I mean, you were sprinting to the finish. Yeah. I'm done. What was in your head at that point?
I was so excited. I think just being an average runner, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome always when you line up to these things, knowing like I could try my best and it just might not be enough. And kind of always going into it with that, like, I'm not going to be faster than people, but I'm going to outwork them and I'm going to train harder than them. And that at the end of the day, like, that is either going to be enough or not. And so knowing that, like, all the work I did and all the hours I missed sleep, and my husband, like, took one for the team and had Jackson all weekend so I could go train, like that, it just kind of all flashed through my mind. And it was just like a celebration of like, I did it. Like, we did it. Like, I was so excited. I did not plan to jump into my husband's arms, and I don't know how he knew I was going to jump. I must have given him a little like nonverbal cue, because I was glad he caught me, because I would have fallen down.
It was amazing. And I mean, everybody, all the cameras were around you. I'm sure that'll show up on some of the Cocodona sites in due course when they finish processing that. But it was absolutely phenomenal. There were people crying in the live stream at that. AJW, Andy Jones Wilkins, who was commentating at the time, he said there was a Strava segment for the alley. You've got to be pretty close to owning like queen of that segment, if there is one. I mean, everyone was just totally taken by surprise. But I mean, so happy, because we kind of followed you from the moment you crested Eldon. People were emotionally invested on the live stream in your finish. And I don't know if you
I had no idea.
Had any idea of that. But yeah, there were thousands of people watching that. and
Yeah.
all following you as you came through Flagstaff. So just brilliant finish.
My dad was on the live stream, apparently, like chatting with everyone. And my dad's he's hilarious. He's super witty. My mom and dad had my son all weekend. So shout out to them, like, because I would not have been able to do it with my 5-year-old, like hanging out.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was the one who like started the lion. I don't know if you saw the lion emojis. I watched it later. And he was like, oh, she's got the heart of the lion.
Yeah.
And then, so when I watched it back, I was crying. I was like, all the roaring and the lion emojis, like,
yep.
Like, they don't even know me. It was really special. It was very cool.
And that right there, I think, is the beauty of Cocodona with all of the live streaming that they've been able to put in place. It really makes everybody feel a part of all of these journeys, but especially the people kind of coming in towards the end. Everybody is rooting for you guys to come through, and we all feel it. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty emotional finish for all of us, even though you had no idea.
Yeah,
it was really cool. It was really cool. So definitely, folks, go watch that one. Watch the last day and the last 10 or 15 minutes of the recording. It's really cool. Any other thoughts on the race? Any advice for somebody? Because I think you can go sign up for 25 at this point. I think it's open. So
yeah.
Any advice for somebody thinking about signing up from a either training perspective or racing perspective? What are some things that you would tell somebody in advance to watch out for, don't do?
I'd say just as far as training goes, like, don't discount being tough. And like, you don't have to be the best runner. You don't have to be the fastest runner. You have to have a heart to like finish. And you, like, anyone can, I honestly believe anyone can be an ultra runner. Like, I am not a great runner, but I have a heart to finish, and I know I will keep going until I do. So I'd say, just if you are passionate about doing the race, sign up. Like, don't avoid it because you think you're not good enough or not elite. I'd say if you want to share miles with people in Cocodona, like, sign up. It's a beautiful experience. And it's very special. It
truly is. And actually, I don't think you have to go 250 miles to get that. I think you can get a similar experience from a lot of races out there. But Cocodona in particular, I think that's partly why we do these races, right? Because those experiences exist. It's the whole community behind it, I think, is tremendous. But Cocodona in particular, I think, it stands on its own as a 200-mile race. And there are some really good 200-mile races.
Yeah.
The live stream aspect really adds something different. And then obviously there's so many different terrains through the race itself. Just a totally different race.
Yeah. I think it really puts on display the trail running community and what we all love about it that people don't always see. It's like giving water to someone at mile 30 when you're almost out. My pacer at one point went back up a mountain to find someone's phone who he had lost. He had lost his phone. Like, people cheering for someone at the back of the pack who never, thought they'd be doing 250 miles. It's like, it's the beauty of trail running on display. And I think that's why it's really fun to watch, because I think we all want to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing we do, Christy, at the end of each episode here is that we ask a guest to choose a song that they would like to add to the free Choose to Endure Spotify playlist. Typically, it's something family-friendly, just lift you up, motivate you, or keep you moving while you're out on a trail, such as Cocodona. Now, do you want to share the song you chose and why it resonated with you?
Yes. So I thought about choosing Baby Shark because, I have a 5-year-old, but I didn't want to do that to people.
No, please.
Can you imagine?
Thankfully, you did not choose that one.
You're off this. No, I chose Run by One Republic, which might be a little too on the nose, but it's very peppy, and I'm a very happy, peppy individual. So it's bouncy and fun, and it talks about running and keeping going. And I really like the beat. And whenever I'm feeling a little bit low, I put that one on and I'm like, oh yeah, let's go.
Love it. Love it. I think we had another One Republic. We might have had one or two One Republics, and they're quite popular for the running community, apparently, in general.
Yeah.
Well, so as we approach the end of this particular episode, Christy, thanks again for joining the show and sharing your incredible journey across Arizona with us and everything that encompassed. Christy did it. You can too if you're listening, and it's pretty darn cool if you ask me. As we said, Cocodona 2025 is open if you want to go sign up for your own adventure. Christy, is there a round 2 in your future here? Or I don't know if you've even thought about that yet.
No, probably not for a long time. I don't race a whole lot because I have a family, and I get a lot of my race vibes from working with ultra expeditions. I get to see people cross the finish at least twice a month, and I love it. That's my jam. So probably not for a while, but I'm still in the racing scene. Okay. So if you want to come see me, come to one of our races.
Well, head over to Ultra Sign Up if you want to get to the Cocodona 2025. And on that note, if you are out there on the internet and looking for races, definitely also go check out Ultra Expeditions, where Christy is at, and you'll see her at the finish line. They have some really cool races going on. I think the website is ultraexpeditions.com. You can go out there and find out where Christy is herself, as well as the rest of the fantastic Ultra Expeditions crew. They have races going on out there. Barrier Island Ultra, that's a beach race up to 50 miles. I have to do that one of these days. What a great way to spend a weekend with friends out there on the beach. And they have the Border to Badlands race out in the beautiful Seminole Canyon Park right there by the Rio Grande on the Mexican border, and also one of my all-time favorites, the Wild Canyon Ultra out at Caprock Canyon State Park, one of, I think, the toughest courses in Texas, where you can experience the truly ethereal red rock canyons. They're utterly unbelievable. And the only Texas state bison herd. So you actually get to run, not with, but around, alongside bison out on that course. And they are very intimidating, I have to say. Those things are absolutely massive. So anyway, go check out Ultra Expedition site for those races and more. Go sign up for something. I will, of course, put those links in the show notes. Now, while you're on the internet signing up for Cocodona or checking out where Christy and her crew are going to be, don't forget to also subscribe to the show here, get notified each time a new episode drops, and of course, follow, share, and like. That would be very much appreciated. Doing any of those things really helps with the algorithms. That in turn helps get the word out and increases the chances of other back of the pack ultra runners finding the information that guests like Christy have to share when they give up their time. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and over at choosetoendure.com. So be sure to head over to any of those and check us out, say hello, drop us a message, suggest a topic, or provide some constructive feedback if you have a moment. And you can now actually message us directly from the show notes too, so there's no excuse really. Until then, be like Christy and run long, run strong, and keep choosing to endure.